Well, welcome to MPtv for a Thursday. Today we're going to talk to a member of Parliament who has a very interesting challenge. Larry Bagnell represents the Yukon, all of the Yukon, by the way, which is a hugely big piece of Canada. Now, he's a Liberal member of Parliament. He's been in the House of Commons now for 6 years, and I asked him about, what it takes to actually represent that big a chunk of Canada and what it means to him personally. So here's my conversation with MP Larry Bagnell. Well, we're back here in the foyer of the House of Commons after another question period, raucous and noisy as usual. My guest today is Larry Bagnell. Now, Larry is an interesting guy. He's a Liberal, but that's okay. But he represents the Yukon, and the Yukon, that's just the name of the riding, Yukon. It's a huge riding, and Larry, let's first put it into perspective. How big is this territory you represent?
Well, that's bigger than virtually every country in Europe, and I have to spend 12 hours to get there in the first place, and then you get in your car and you can drive another 8 hours to get to various places. So wow. It's a large area to cover and a long way from Ottawa.
Now, how do you get there from Ottawa? You take a plane from here to where?
Yeah, I usually fly here to Toronto, to Vancouver, to Whitehorse, and maybe get there midnight Friday nights. Sunday morning at 7, I'm at the airport, and I get here at 10 at night every week.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, what does your family think of that? Do you have family back?
Yeah, they're pretty upset. Well, when you're only there one day, and you spend that day in the office, and then a banquet or an event at night, you don't see much of your family.
Wow. I think it gives a glimpse into what level of commitment many members of Parliament make to take this job, and I think a lot of constituents have no idea. They think we get elected and we're on some gravy train from then on, but that's grueling. That is really grueling. Well, what are the issues in your riding, Larry?
Well, right now the issues are people are enraged at the recent cuts because they affect a lot of the groups that we have in our riding. We're 24% Aboriginal people, so they were upset about cuts to Aboriginal people. We're 4% Francophones, so the cuts to the court challenge. We have a big literacy group. I used to be president of the Literacy Association, and they've been on my case constantly since the cuts. The tourism industry is probably the only part in Canada where the tourism is the biggest private sector employer is tourism. And there was 4 different cuts to tourism, tourism marketing and rebates for tourists. And so those people were pretty upset about that. So in the near term, it's been quite a raucous 2 weeks just because of major cuts to so many organizations in the Yukon. Youth student employment in our museums were hurt really badly too, and those are well used. We have a small tax base, as you can imagine, with only 33,000 constituents, so we really need this federal government cut, and when it's cut, it hurts. All
right, now that sounded like a fairly political and partisan answer there, Larry. I mean,
yes.
Which is okay. I understand that, but by the same token, your constituents pay GST, which is less, right? And your constituents have, concerns about the federal debt, which we put some money against. I mean, it's not all bad, right?
Oh, well, those 2 things aren't bad.
Okay. Well,
but there are bad things offsetting those, like the tax increases.
All right.
Okay.
Let's talk about something that doesn't put us at each other's throats. I do want to talk a little bit about the Liberal leadership, because you're in a part of the country where I think Ignatieff ran away with the popular vote, didn't he? 50%?
Yes, we had the highest of any province or territory in the country.
All right, now why did the Yukon go for Ignatieff the way it did?
Well, I think the main reason is because he went there. And virtually no one knew anything about him until he went there. And we organized a large meeting, and the members came to see who he was. And he talked about things that were important to the North and to the Yukon. I'll give you 2 examples. One is Aboriginal people, and this is what got me on side. He had a number of meetings to work out Aboriginal policy before even this started. And he really convinced me he was very sincere about that. He wanted to develop his policy, improve it, and really understand Aboriginal people. The other is, he talks in a lot of his speeches about the rural-urban divide and the fact that we cannot leave rural Canada out of the vision of Canada that the Liberals must have. And to people in my riding that are the farthest from Ottawa as possible, you could understand that sense of alienation, that someone has to really make sure that we're still in the equation. And I think that was quite a good selling point for him.
Now, in terms of your riding, I'm sensing there's a great dependency on the federal government. Is that very much a part of your role? Are you there? Are you here rather to fight for more money for your constituents? Is that mostly what they expect from you?
Well, certainly that's one of the very important things because, as I said earlier, we have a very small tax base. We've got very harsh climate and infrastructure conditions, very expensive to build infrastructure, so they need someone in Ottawa to make sure they don't forget us, we're so far away, and to make sure we can get the extra funding so we can have services comparable to the rest of Canada, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. So it is very expensive, and we certainly need those extra funds, more than per capita, because of the extra costs of doing in the harsh climate of the north.
All right, let me ask something about you. How long have you been in the House now?
Since 2000.
All right, and before that, you were?
I directed the industry. Well, I directed municipal association, so I got experience in municipal government and all over the Yukon. And then before that, I directed the Industry Canada office. So the programs for tourism, international trade, industrial development, Aboriginal programs. And I quite liked that job, but they closed the office, so I had to get another job.
Who closed the office?
The federal government.
Federal government. And what kind of federal government would that be?
It was one that made a wrong decision.
Okay, which was Liberal.
It was, yes, it was.
There you go. All right. Well, anyway, we love you here. We love the Yukon, and MPtv loves the Yukon, and I hope they tune in and watch. Larry Bagnell, MP, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for watching.